All right, we continue with the defense case in chief. You may call your next witness, Mr. Selden.
Thank you, Your Honor. The defense calls Dr. Zachary Halsey.
You'll raise your right hand, please, sir. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes. You may have a seat right there.
Good afternoon, Dr. Halsey. As you probably know, I'm Stanley Selden. I'm one of the co-counsel for the defendant, Natalie Cochran. First of all, what is your full name, and would you please spell it for the clerk?
Zachary Tyler Halsey, Z-A-C-H-A-R-Y, and then Halsey is H-A-L-S-E-Y.
Where are you currently employed?
I'm currently employed by Access Health in Daniels.
How long have you worked there?
Approximately 10 and a half years.
What's your title?
Family physician.
Are you licensed in the state of West Virginia as a family physician?
Yes.
Approximately how long have you been licensed as a family physician?
Approximately 7 years, plus then 3 more for training, so roughly the 10 years.
That's fine. Do you have any certification as a family practitioner?
Yes, through the American College of Osteopathic Family Physicians.
And briefly, what's your training as a family physician? Briefly.
So I had 3 years of family practice training also at Access Health.
Okay. Are you familiar with Natalie Cochran as a pharmacist?
Yes.
And how do you know her as a pharmacist?
She also worked for Access Health as well as gave lectures occasionally for the residency program.
Okay. And if you would speak up a little bit, I'm having a little trouble hearing you.
I got you.
Speak into the microphone.
Sure.
Thank you. Approximately how much contact did you have with Natalie Cochran in her capacity as a pharmacist at Access Health?
Approximately 10 to 15 times, probably, somewhere like that.
Okay. And over what period of time did that occur?
4 to 5 years. I don't remember when the exact end of the work part was.
Do you know how long Natalie Cochran worked at Access Health as a pharmacist?
I do not know.
Okay. I'd like to call your attention to February 5th of 2019.
Okay.
And I will inform you and everybody else that was the day before Michael Cochran's collapse. Okay?
Sure.
Did you have occasion to see or treat Natalie Cochran on February 5th of 2019?
Yes.
Did she make an appointment?
Yes.
Why did she make an appointment with your office?
On that day, she was having some flu-like symptoms, cough, congestion, shortness of breath, things like that.
Did she complain of body aches?
Yes.
Did you test her for flu and possibly strep?
Yes.
Do you recall what those results were?
Those were negative.
Okay. And that doesn't positively rule out those ailments. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. Did you give her a shot or a prescription on February 5th of 2019?
No, not on the 5th.
Okay. Did you at that day or the next day give her a steroid burst shot for inflammation and other symptoms that she was expressing to you?
It was an oral steroid, but yes, on the 5th.
Okay. Does possibly that a steroid increase the body's blood sugar?
Yes.
As a physician, would it be advisable for Natalie Cochran to take insulin to lower her blood sugar if that was the case?
It is possible to take insulin to lower blood sugar, yes.
Okay. And just to sum up, on the 5th, February 5th, 2019, she simply didn't feel well.
Correct.
Okay. I call your attention to February 6th, 2019, the next day, and that was the day of Michael Cochran's collapse. Okay?
Okay.
Did Natalie Cochran, on that day, make an appointment and come into Access Health?
Yes.
Why?
On that day, she had been having some nausea and vomiting overnight.
Okay. Was she still complaining of the previous symptoms?
Yes, they were still present.
Was she, or did she ask for, or was she retested again for the flu?
Yes, she was.
And again, what were the results?
It was also negative at that time.
Okay. And again, that doesn't absolutely prove she had the flu. It's a test to indicate that.
Sure.
Okay. On February 6, 2019, what treatment was she given that day?
On that day, she was given an injection of promethazine as well as a prescription for oral promethazine.
What's promethazine for? What's it used for?
It is for nausea.
According to your recollection, what time did she come in on February 6th, and approximately what time did she leave?
It was approximately, somewhere between 8 and 8:30 that she was there, and left, probably around 9:30 to 10, somewhere through there.
Okay. Was she there in the early morning for when you opened up?
Yes, so we open at 8 o'clock.
Okay. Now, on these 2 days, did you have any reason to doubt Natalie Cochran's sincerity about being sick?
No.
Did you conclude that she was sick?
I felt like she was sick at that time, yes.
Okay. And as a licensed family physician, if you didn't think she was sick, you wouldn't have prescribed or given her promethazine, right?
Correct.
Because you don't give medication to people that aren't sick or you think they're sick.
Right.
Okay. Now, is one of the side effects of promethazine sleepiness?
It can, yes.
Given that promethazine can cause sleepiness, given Natalie's symptoms and complaints, would you deem it advisable for her to travel, say, on a plane, go to meetings with bankers, etc.? Don't know how long they're going to last. Or would it be more advisable, or would you recommend that she go home and go to bed?
I would certainly say if you're not feeling well, especially with vomiting, to go home and stay in bed.
Now I'd like to kind of change things up a little bit. Did you ever treat or have Gavin Davis as your patient?
Yes.
Did you know that Gavin Davis had an insulin pump for his diabetes type 1 disease?
Yes.
How does an insulin pump work?
So it will secrete insulin based upon the body's needs of how much glucose is in the body.
Is it possible that an insulin pump can run out of the insulin in it or malfunction?
Yes.
How do you fill an insulin pump? Can it be one of two ways? You attach a vial of insulin to it, or you directly inject the insulin?
Yes. That's accurate.
What type of insulin was Gavin Davis's pump filled with?
His was rapid-acting insulin. I believe it was Humalog.
Okay. Humalog Lispro insulin, right?
Yes.
Okay. Once Humalog insulin enters the body, either by the pump or by injection, how long does it take it to start to work?
Approximately 15 minutes or so.
Okay. How long is it active or working in the body after it's introduced?
4 to 6 hours, somewhere through there.
Were you aware that Natalie Cochran was a diabetic specialist?
Yes, she was in that role with Access Health.
Okay. Did you know that the Davises, Gavin's parents, especially Jennifer, designated Natalie Cochran at one time as an emergency contact for Gavin if they couldn't be reached in an emergency?
No, I do not know that.
Would it be reasonable to have a backup supply of insulin if an insulin pump failed or needed refilling?
Yes.
Would it be reasonable if Natalie Cochran was a neighbor of the Davises and at one point an emergency contact for Gavin? Would it be reasonable that she keep a supply of Gavin's Humalog insulin at her home?
It would be reasonable if it was Gavin's. Yes.
And would that be further reasonable if Gavin Davis often visited there or ate food at the Cochran's home?
It would be reasonable.
Now, a person afflicted with diabetes type 1, when they eat food, you have to carefully measure what food they're taking, carbohydrate intake, etc., so you can regulate the insulin to control the blood sugar that comes from their eating. Is that correct?
That would be correct.
Okay. Now, is it your understanding that in a diabetic, insulin works to lower blood sugar?
Yes.
Because diabetics, most of them, don't process sugar like normal people. They have an excess of high blood sugar in their system. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah.
Does insulin work to lower blood sugar when it's introduced in the body?
Yes.
Now, wouldn't you believe that if a licensed pharmacist would have access to or be able to get insulin?
I think it would be reasonable that they would know how to get insulin. Yes.
I need a moment, Your Honor.
All right.
I believe that's the extent of my direct examination, Your Honor.
All right, cross-examination, Mr. Truman.
A few questions, Doctor. There's been a lot of discussion about reasonableness of having Gavin Davis supplied with insulin at the defendant's house. And your answers were that would be reasonable. But if that wasn't the stated reason why that insulin was in the house, would that change your opinion as to how reasonable it would for a house that has non-diabetics?
Sure.
Okay. If you were shown a message from the defendant to Jennifer Davis saying she was going to borrow a bottle for her own treatment, would that change your opinion as to how reasonable it was to have insulin in her house?
Yes.
You were also the treating physician for Michael, or the primary care physician for Michael Cochran?
Yes. At one time.
Okay. You're aware of his allergies?
Yes.
And he was allergic to benzodiazepine?
I believe that was in the chart. Yes.
Okay. And he was also allergic to some of the medication you gave to the defendant on February the 5th, right?
I believe so.
Now, the defense asked you about steroids and how that could increase blood glucose, and insulin would counteract that. And those were fair questions to ask.
Yes.
As her primary care physician, were you treating for any kind of cancer?
No.
I'm going to object to that, Your Honor. May we approach?
Yes. Truman.
Doctor, as her primary care physician, were you ever treating her for cancer?
No.
Did you try and verify her statement to you that she was diagnosed at Duke by having cancer?
Technically, no.
Okay. When you say technically, go ahead and
It was,
explain.
so we were trying to refer to Duke. It was, there was an office visit where cancer was discussed, and then we were trying to refer to Duke for that.
Did you ever get any results indicating that that was correct?
No,
So from your perspective, you were never able to verify the defendant's statements to you that she had been diagnosed with Duke with cancer.
correct.
You tried, correct?
Yes,
And Duke provided you with nothing.
right. We never got records from that.
Nope. Doctor, the defense asked you about February 6th, and I'd like this marked for identification, please.
He states Exhibit 33, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Haney, what's been marked for identification states 33. Take a moment and glance at that for me, please. Dr. Wood is states 33
That is the visit from February the 6th.
of 2019.
Yes.
And on the bottom of page 2, oh, I'm sorry, not the bottom.
Okay.
What does that indicate that you provided in the way of medication?
So that was the injection of promethazine as well as the oral tablets for promethazine.
So the defendant got an injection, and that was administered at your office on the morning of the 6th of February 2019, correct?
Correct.
But you sent her home with some tablets as well.
Yes.
Or, are they tablets or capsules, or can you tell?
The ones in the chart here says tablet, so
Tablet.
they can come in both.
Okay. Doctor, if a patient was allergic to the particular substance that you'd been talking about, what would be the anticipated reaction?
It varies depending on the severity.
I'm going to object. I believe he needs to be more specific as to what substance he's referring to.
Fair enough. Hand you what's been marked as states 33 and call your attention again to the medications that day. Let's talk about the injection. That would have taken place in your office, correct?
Correct.
Now, the tablets that you sent out,
Yes.
that's, if an individual patient was allergic to that particular substance, what would you anticipate the reaction to be?
Again, depending on the severity, it can be as simple as upset stomach, rash, just feeling ill.
I'm objecting. And again, I believe we need to approach the bench.
Okay. All right, ask the question again, please, Mr. Truman.
We were discussing the likely reaction from a physician's point of view to an allergy to the particular medication you prescribed that day. And you couldn't be specific, but you were telling us in general terms what you might anticipate.
Yes, it could be anything from just nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, things like that, all the way up to potentially anaphylaxis.
What's that?
So that is when essentially your throat starts to close, can't breathe, and can potentially be fatal if not treated.
In between those two extremes, would passing out be a possibility?
Unlikely to be a allergic reaction side effect there.
Okay. Move for States 33 into evidence, please.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, States 33 will be admitted into evidence.
Could I have just a moment, please?
Indeed.
Let's go back to the defendant in your treatment of her. Review of her chart indicates you prescribed Xanax for her.
Yes,
What is that?
that is an anti-anxiety medication,
And part of the family known as what?
benzodiazepine.
And in fact, you had a prescription from just a few days before that for her, correct? For that product?
If you say so.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't keep all your patient stuff in your head?
Not that far back.
If those records do reflect that she filled a prescription a very few days, early days of February 2019, you'd have no reason to doubt that.
I would not have reason to doubt that.
I think that's it. Doctor, thank you. The state has no additional questions. Dr. Halsey.
All right, redirect Mr. Selden.
Could I take just a moment?
Yes.
One additional question while
Go
we're
ahead.
thinking about it. Did on February 6th of 2019, did you prescribe any medication for Michael Cochran, or was it just the defendant?
Just Ms. Cochran. I did not see Michael as a patient that day.
Thank you, Doctor.
So I guess from the cross-examination, you're familiar with Natalie Cochran's medical history.
Yes.
Were you aware that Natalie Cochran had a history of heart problems and that she had heart surgery in September 2018 at CAMC?
I'm aware that's in the records, yes.
And her records reveal that she had a problem with the electrical impulses in her heart, that her heart beat too rapidly, and that was what caused her to have heart surgery. Is that correct?
I believe that to be correct.
Were you aware that Natalie Cochran, oh, and let me ask you, when someone has heart surgery or they're going to undergo surgery, they do a vast number of laboratory tests prior to the surgery and even after surgery.
In general, yes.
Were you aware, or does it appear in Natalie Cochran's records, that CAMC had done lab tests in connection with the surgery that revealed that Natalie Cochran's white blood cell count was low? Do you have any knowledge of that, or does it appear in the records?
I don't have knowledge of that since that was prior to establishing with me, so I can't answer that.
So would you have any knowledge that as a result of those lab tests, Natalie Cochran was instructed to undergo further laboratory tests?
I'm not aware of that.
Okay. Now, since the door's been opened and I feel the need, I have to go into it, I want to address Natalie Cochran's possibly having cancer, okay?
Okay.
Did Natalie Cochran make an appointment with you or your office at Access Health on January 15th of 2019, approximately a month before Michael Cochran's death?
Yes.
Did she make that appointment because she had some suspicions as to whether she may or may not have cancer?
My understanding was that she was told that she did have cancer and that we were trying to proceed with that.
And you don't know specifically who or what entity told her that, right?
Correct.
Okay. In her appointment, did she tell you she had made an appointment with the Cleveland Clinic to discuss the possibility of her having cancer, and specifically leukemia, which is a low white blood cell count?
Yes, at the time we were advised about an appointment with Cleveland.
Okay. Did she formally ask you to refer her there, or did she just give an indication she'd already made an appointment?
Just an indication.
Did you discuss her symptoms and why she suspected she might have cancer?
We had talked about various symptoms at the time, yes.
Mm-hmm. And in those discussions, she told you that she was always sick, always tired. She had cough and congestion that went on for a long time. She had body aches and diarrhea and symptoms similar to that.
Yes.
Now, did she call your office the next day, January 16th of 2019, Did she call or make contact with your office?
I believe that was the case, yes.
Okay. And in that discussion, Natalie said that she had to cancel her appointment with the Cleveland Clinic because of insurance problems and coverage and things of that nature. Is that correct?
Yes.
So subsequently, because she didn't actually was seen at the Cleveland Clinic, you don't have any records from the Cleveland Clinic, correct?
Correct.
Did Natalie ask for and did you give her a referral to Duke University for possible further cancer diagnosis and or treatment?
Yes.
Do your records reflect or do you have any knowledge that Natalie Cochran was on a waiting list to actually confer with the oncology department at Duke University?
I would be unaware of that.
Were you aware that she and Michael Cochran drove down to Duke University to go through the emergency department because it was so long for her to get to the oncology department?
I do know that there was an ER appointment at that time.
Okay. Did you receive or get any records from Duke University?
Just from that ER appointment, and I think there may be some cardiology appointments in there too.
Okay. Now, because of Michael Cochran's subsequent death in February of 2019, the investigation into the fraudulent schemes and Natalie Cochran having problems from that, we don't know at this point whether or not Natalie Cochran indeed has cancer. Isn't that correct?
That's fair.
A moment, Your Honor.
Okay.
Now, isn't it also true that Natalie Cochran left your care in March of 2019, so you don't have any further knowledge of her care, treatment, etc.?
Correct.
A moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
The prosecutor asked you about Michael Cochran's supposed allergies. And you don't know, from your review of those records, whether those were actual allergies or side effects of medications. Isn't that correct?
That's true. Yeah. I wouldn't have put the, I believe those were put in prior So I don't know what the reaction that he may have had with this was.
Thank you very much.
Further questions, Mr. Truman?
Yes.
Go right ahead.
As Michael Cochran's primary care physician, you never treated him for diabetes, did you?
No,
Because he didn't have diabetes.
true,
You never prescribed insulin because he didn't need insulin.
true.
Back to the defendant for a moment. Any information that you have as her primary care physician was only what she told you in terms of cancer, correct?
Correct.
And you made efforts to refer her to Duke, correct?
Correct.
Ask this be marked as 34, please.
State's Exhibit 34, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Whoops. Dr. Henry, what's been marked for identification is stage 34. Take a look at that, please.
Okay.
And in there, it addresses your attempt to refer to a specialist, which was Duke, for the defendant's alleged cancer.
Correct.
What'd they tell you, Duke?
That if she did not have a diagnosis of CLL, that they would not see her.
And did they come up with a diagnosis of CLL?
I never received any records from Duke.
Move stage 34 into evidence.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
It is admitted.
Doctor, thank you. State has no further questions.
Anything further, Mr. Selden?
Yes, Your Honor. I would like to take possession of that station number 34.
Okay.
This document purports to be information about Natalie Cochran's referral to Duke University. Was that correct?
Correct. That would be a phone note.
What is CLL?
It's a form of leukemia.
Which can be indicated by a low white blood cell count. Isn't that correct?
It can be, yes.
Now, this document clearly says that someone from Duke University called, and I don't know if they called you or Natalie.
It would have been-
It just says they called and stated they don't have records backing the diagnosis for CLL, and they won't see her, right?
Correct. That would have been between the referral nurse and my nurse at the time. The referral would.
And because Natalie Cochran was investigating whether she had CLL or any other form of cancer, she would not be able to provide those records. Isn't that true?
That would be true.
She didn't get an appointment at the Cleveland Clinic for the reasons discussed. Now Duke is saying, we need records that show you've already been diagnosed with CLL, or we can't take you, right?
That's correct. That's what the note says.
And you didn't have any of those records which definitively would diagnose Natalie Cochran as having CLL, right?
Correct. Correct.
Because she's investigating, right?
Correct.
She's trying to see these people. They're telling her they can't see her in the oncology departments because they already need proof that she has CLL, right?
Yes. Yes.
Kind of a catch-22, isn't it?
That's medicine.
No further questions.
Anything, Mr. Truman?
Oh, unfortunately, I do. Doctor, the circular logic of that is this. She told you the month before that Duke is who diagnosed her with that, didn't she?
I believe it was from CAMC, not Duke. Duke came later.
And you never got your records from CAMC either.
No.
Wouldn't a primary care physician be aware if his patient was being treated for cancer?
We would hope so. We don't, unfortunately, we don't always get records.
Don't always get records, but usually you would have something to indicate that your patient had cancer.
Generally, we would have those records.
Almost always, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Thanks, Doctor.
Briefly.
Okay.
You don't have anything in your records that says CAMC said she had CLL, just that she might have it because of her lowered white blood cell count. Isn't that right?
The only thing in the chart that I would have for that was the notes to my nurse and myself at the time during that first office visit.
And once again, I'm sorry to belabor the point. She suspects she has CLL because of conversations with CAMC or some other hospital or entity. She wants to be referred for further diagnosis as to whether she has it or not, right?
So I think the very first visit, she had already had apparently an appointment with Cleveland, so that didn't involve us. And that she was telling the nurse at the time that she was informed that she had CLL. That's what the
what
note
nurse
says.
informed of
My
you?
nurse at the time.
You don't know if Natalie said, I'm pretty sure I have CLL and I want to be further diagnosed or treated, right?
Yeah, I can't remember the exact conversation. That was
Okay.
6 years ago.
Did you or anyone from Access Health or any of these other entities, especially Duke, contact CAMC to get the lab results that indicated to Natalie Cochran she might have CLL?
I know that we would have. I can't speak for other entities, but I'm sure that we would have tried to get the documents from them.
But you didn't get them.
Correct.
Just a moment.
Okay.
I need to get States 34 again.
Very well.
And I need just a moment, Your Honor.
All right.
At the bottom of this document. And may I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
I'm showing you what the market states, number 34. Now, right under here, at the bottom.
Okay. You're going to have to speak loudly, Mr.
Okay.
Silver.
Under here, under case description, and I'm going to read from this, okay? It says, Natalie was returning a call to the nurse, and that's the nurse at Access Health,
Yes.
right? Regarding lab results. Says, Natalie says, I tried to call the nurse around 12:20 p.m. There was no answer. And then the nurse says, in which I told the patient, and I don't know who I is, someone at Access Health, right?
Correct.
I would send a phone number to the nurse to return her call. The patient, that's Natalie, stated she is on her way back to her appointment with the cardiologist and then an appointment with the oncologist, and she wants her to be called at, and she leaves her phone number so she can try to get these records, right?
That's what the phone note says, yes.
Okay. And do you know if this is Natalie Cochran's phone number?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Last word, Mr. Truman.
The last word would be thank you to the doctor. He's been a good sport about all this. We're done.
Thank you very much, Dr. Halsey. You may step down. You are excused, sir. Call your next witness, Mr. Silver.